Today's show is brought to you by KegConnection.com. Purchase all of your homebrewing supplies and draft beer equipment with everyday low pricing and everyday flat rate shipping at KegConnection.com. Like the brand new True to Style recipe kit, a delicious German Weissbier. It, along with every other True to Style recipe, is on sale for 25% off at KegConnection.com. Go to KegConnection.com right now, use the promo code HHH, and you'll get 5% off your order.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Hey, welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, visit homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the Submit a Question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing, and today I am joined once again by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com, Mr. James Carlson, and then all the way from the unusually chilly Denver, Colorado for Craft Brewers Conference, it's Todd Burns. Gentlemen, thank you for doing the show with me this week.
Yeah, good to be here. Good to be in Denver, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I'd say here. Yeah, you are in...
It snowed all night last night, so that's kind of bizarre. When I showed up, it was around 80 degrees, and then the next night it's snowing like crazy and drops down to 25. So I mean that's a pretty big change in the weather.
Wow.
We
weren't at that temperature. What was it yesterday? 95?
Yeah, it got up to like 95 or 96 here in Austin.
Crazy.
It was less than. Todd showed me the snow, and when you're as hairy as I am, you get jealous by things like that. So I was here sweating, patting myself, my pearls, my stars, and that's what we say in the South. And it was not as enjoyable. But the snow, how did that affect your trip? Did you even go prepared? I forgot to ask you. Did you even take a jacket, Todd?
So I did take a jacket. However, it was kind of warm at the show, so I just went ahead and left it at one of the booths while I was walking around. So I didn't have it last night.
Nice. That sounds very much like a Todd Burns. That's why James is laughing. Well, first off, too, we didn't have a booth there, and you still found some place to leave your stuff. That's vintage Todd Burns.
Absolutely.
That's exactly like another guy I know. I can't think of his name. He was at the Brow. What was that guy's name?
Which one?
Oh
yeah. Oh gosh. Oh yeah.
That was a joke.
Yes. We did. I'm happy that Todd, you're able to join us, and for a little bit of time, because you actually have to rush to the airport here in like an hour, and so we'll keep.
Yeah, they canceled like 400 flights yesterday, but I think they'll be okay today. So I'm looking forward to it. I actually got upgraded, which hasn't happened domestically in a while. So
whoa, big flyer.
It's not real. I mean, it's just a little bit bigger seat, but a guy like me that's been sitting around drinking craft beer for 3 days, a bigger seat wouldn't hurt.
I was going to say a little bit. Their tagline should be a little bigger seat for a little bigger guy. But that was rude. If that would be rude. We did bring you in. Originally, I was telling James it's just gonna be you and me. Screw Todd. He didn't take us with us. And James, the gentleman he always is, he said we should have him call in and do a recap of CBC. So that's begrudgingly, here you are. I want to hear your input, Todd, and then we'll let you go. Get ready to, because I know you have not packed yet. You're gonna wait to the very last minute to patch. So let's hear it.
Well, I mean, it's only around 9 o'clock here, so I've catch the plane at 11. Still got some time to pack. I mean,
yeah. Your flight leaves at 11:40, right? Yeah, you got plenty of time. Yeah. So start it off, Todd. All right, CBC. Hold on.
First and foremost, one of the things that I'm going to be packing is a new hat for you. So we finally get to get rid of.
Why? What's wrong with my hat? I don't understand what you're saying.
It's that purple color, I think.
Oh. Well, that's judgmental. Man, y'all gotta get that phone. Goodness. Todd, cool story about the hat. No, really appreciate it. But tell us while we're losing you on the internet now too. All right, so we had some technical difficulties. Todd, I think, paid for the basic internet package, not the deluxe internet package. And so we
pay for internet. What are you talking about?
Pay for internet? What is that garbage? So we still wanted to have the CBC recap. So where we left off, you were saying something about my cool hat getting replaced. Past that, CBC this year in Denver, which is Mecca for not just craft beer, but the Brewers Association is located in that tri-state area. It seemed like it was a big show from what I could follow. Give us your thoughts, Todd, and an overall recap of Craft Brewers Conference 2019.
Yeah, I mean, they're actually located in the state, not just the tri-state region, right? So,
right. I meant Tri-City. God, shut up. You knew
what
I
thought you were seriously saying tri-state.
No,
I apologize.
No, I totally meant Tri-City because Tri-City, that like Boulder, Fort Collins, Denver, like isn't that?
Oh, I see. I didn't know they had that designation.
I might have just made it up, but get on with Craft Brewers Conference.
So the show was good. There wasn't a lot of new things. There weren't a lot of new things that I saw. I've been to this show a lot of times. Some things that were kind of neat. One of the dry yeast companies actually is coming out with a Kolsch yeast, a specific Kolsch yeast and a specific ESB yeast. So I think that would be really cool to add that to our true to style recipes. We could actually do a dry yeast, particularly during the summer, that might transport better. So I was kind of excited about that. It's the one that starts with the double L's, but I think it's French, and I won't embarrass the French or myself. I'm trying to pronounce it. But James, can you pronounce that one?
I want to say Layla Mond, but
yeah, that's got to be it. I like that pronunciation. So, they're the ones that we'll definitely. It'll take a little while, but we'll get those in. That'll be a new yeast to try. The other things that I saw were just a lot of turmoil, I think, in the competition, but because there seems to be, although there's more and more craft breweries opening, I think we're starting to see it maybe slow down. So I think the competition seems like it's getting a little bit more intense, which is interesting because we've really, really seen that in the homebrew industry now for the last 4 years. So I think that, to me, I just kind of got that feeling from walking around the booths. I'm interested or excited about doing the show next year because it'll be in San Antonio.
Did they Did they officially announce it? I didn't hear.
Oh yeah, well we knew it was in San Antonio, so yeah, it's definitely.
No, we knew, but we it was a buddy thing. Like I never talked about it on publicly, like our social media, because.
Oh yeah, that's just open now.
Okay, I knew they always do towards the end of the show, but I didn't know if they announced it. And by the time this publishes, it'll have. I know for sure.
The badges, yeah. I mean, it was part of your badge. It had a little thing about don't miss the next show. It says, join us next year for the Craft Brewers Conference, San Antonio, Texas, April 19th through the 22nd.
Cool. I'm excited, man, because we're going to have, like you said, not only we're going to have a booth, that's my backyard. That's my hometown. I'm very excited that I don't even know how you're going to do it because that's a far enough drive for you guys that you're obviously going to have hotel rooms. I might just crash with a family member or something. I got plenty of family down there in that area because I'm assuming it's going to be at the Henry Gonzalez Convention Center. And,
sure.
So we'll get to have some drunk pictures, or pardon me, fun pictures fun pictures in front of the Alamo. We'll see if we can't get some people Ozzy Osbourne banned for a little bit. Todd, did it seem, remember the last time we all went together, it was in DC, and our perception was it was a little bit of not bare show, like the trade show portion seemed bare in regards to the amount of people walking around. Did you feel like the attendance this year was higher or lower than usual?
I didn't think it was I think it was pretty average. I think it was more like DC. Nashville, when I went to that one, seemed like it had a lot more people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of vendors there. There's 1,000 vendors. And sometimes you feel like it's a whole bunch of vendors sitting around talking to each other at times. So I don't know. It's a show it's a good show. I always enjoy going to the show, but as you know, we really love the Homebrew Con. That's the show that is the most fun I think for us, and the one that we really enjoy attending and participating in. So
absolutely. My favorite by far.
Oh yeah. Speaking of, showing and vendors and all that, we are at HomebrewCon, obviously going to have a huge booth for CBC 2020. What are you thinking? I mean, obviously CM Becker is going to be the front and center of it. We haven't really talked ideas, but it's a unique kind of position because we can trailer our stuff down to San Antonio. And I don't know, people who aren't in logistics or don't do trade shows, guys, it is so expensive to get your stuff to shows. I'm right now doing the logistics to get our stuff up to Providence, Providence, Rhode Island. And it is a lot of money going from Comanche, Texas to Providence, Rhode Island. We have a lot of potential to save a lot of money and also to do a bigger booth, don't you think?
Yeah, it's funny because I was talking to somebody. I had dinner with Mark from Fittings last night, and we were talking about that, and I said, man, I don't know. When we did that DC show, we spent like $15,000, and he started laughing. He goes, "You spent more than $15,000, my friend."
Yeah, he saw how I was ordering at restaurants. He's talking about me, obviously, right? And how much my time is worth. Yeah. Now that's the thing about shows. It's like they are so much fun to attend. The people there are the best. It's like going to Disney World where you just don't want to look at your wallet. You have to but I wait like a week or two when I get home from Florida, and then I go, well, okay, what was the damage? Because if you think about it while you're there, you're just gonna have a bad time.
Right.
I will say this: they did the beer that they brewed this year was the best I've had in several years. They brewed a Brute Red IPA. And it was delicious. I had one last night in my hotel room because I can't take it back in my carry-on. And it was brewed by Sleeping Giant Brewing Company with the support of 250 Colorado brewery members. And sometimes these collaboration beers that we've had in the past, I think maybe there's too many Chiefs and not enough Indians.
Yeah.
But they really
That's being very nice.
Very, very good.
Oh my gosh, Todd Burns. Yep. Yeah. Too many chefs, not enough cooks.
No, I said too many Chiefs, not enough Indians.
Oh no, I heard you. Yeah. Well,
is that not? Am I not supposed to say that?
No, of course you can. No, I like it.
Chefs, not enough cooks.
Yeah, I like that, Todd. I was just giving another one, an alternate one, in case people were listening and going, I've never heard that, because I don't think that's as common as saying.
Really?
So
that's what I've always heard. Interesting.
That's what,
must be an age thing.
I was just that's not. I didn't want to jump there immediately and tell you it's a generational gap, because you also say, well, there's more than one way to skin a dead cat, or wait to.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
It's more than one way to kill a cat than choking it to death on butter.
There you go. Guarantee you, no one under the age of 40 has heard that.
Remember, the other one I used to say was, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting one of those around here. And,
or as Greg would say, you can't throw a dead cat.
Yeah, every time we see Greg,
That's right.
when he used to work for the hose company, he would be like, "Oh man, you can't throw a cat on its belly." He's like, we could never get it right. It was the funniest thing. So, but anyway, what I would say about the show in general is I was a little bit surprised, because usually you could find something at the show and you could get on a podcast and you could say, boy, I saw a really neat product this year.
Right.
And it does this and this and this. I just couldn't find that at the show. I just didn't. I saw a lot of our vendors, a huge number of our vendors, had lunch with someone, with a vendor, and dinner with a vendor, and it was a good show, and I enjoyed it. But I just didn't nothing jumped out at me and said, I'm new and cool. So.
Well, it is an interesting time in the beer industry in general, and I'll just leave it at that. Interesting, covering the whole spectrum of that meaning, because, like you said, we in the homebrew industry, we've seen it over the last 4 years. As much as people are brewing more, there's just this weird saturation and breaking point of a lot of brick and mortars closing down. Competition's tight. That's good for the consumer, I'm told. But in the craft beer scene too, like they're in Austin and in Portland and other cities we've been to, I'm sure in Denver, you can't walk downtown and curl a dead cat on its stomach, or whatever the saying was again. You
can't swing a dead cat without hitting a brewery in Denver.
Exactly. And there is a point though to where they're not all sustainable. Or a live cat and then it dies. Anyway, okay, I'm digressing. It is an interesting time, and I'm very interested to see, where craft beer goes. Because like right now, people want to give it some flack on it, but what seems to be happening to a lot of these up and coming breweries that are getting attention is they get noticed by AB InBev or Saab Coors, or pardon me, Miller Coors or Constellation Brands, whatever, and then they get bought up. I know obviously CBC, the booths are really to entice brewers. The brewers don't have booths there, but did you get to talk? Did you see any new breweries represented there? Did you go to any of the awards stuff or any of that they do as well?
I didn't do any of that. No.
Well, then I'm just gonna hang up on you. That's the end
of
my.
I just paid for the conference, and we were trying to do this as inexpensively as possible. Y'all put me in a hotel out in the boonies here outside of downtown Denver, and
I guarantee you, it is not nearly as bad. It is not nearly as bad as that Ramada you put us in.
I'm suffering over here in my non-downtown hotel room over here at the DoubleTree.
My gosh, Cry Me a River. Do you remember the Ramada you put us in for Great American Beer Festival? I had to hop on the hobo train that went by it to get to the the touristy areas. It was a $500 Uber ride. There wasn't even Uber back then. That's how long ago that was. And that was before marijuana was legal there, but there was plenty of people selling it at that hotel. I remember being solicited a million times. I am not crying for you. Well, Todd, you really do. It is 9:00 there. You got to get going, man. I'm going to cut you loose. Thank you for doing the recap, and we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you soon when you get back in town.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Yeah. James, I'm going to wait for him to hang up before I talk bad about him, because I think he's still on the line.
He's spying on us.
Okay, no, I'm kidding. He is spying on us. Yeah. I say this with a broad spectrum of love. I am so jealous of not going this year. CBC is so fun, right? I mean,
Denver. I mean, that was the one place that I've yet to be able to go to.
Oh, that's right. Because the last time
never been to CBC. I haven't been to Great American Beer Festival. Had tickets 3 years in a row, and something always happened.
Yep.
And then when we talked about maybe going this year as just walkthrough, I thought that would be cool, because if you remember, the last 2 or 3 times, it's the last 2 times I know that we went to the CBC, we had a booth, didn't we? Or was it just 1 year?
I've only gone 1 year with the booth. I believe CM Becker's had it twice.
But it just seemed like I was working more than getting to go visit the vendors, and, it would be cool to do that. But to be fair to Todd, he asked if I wanted to go, and I said, I don't have to go.
Yeah, because you're a good guy. That's why he didn't ask me. He would have said, "Josh, do you want to go?" I'd say, "Yeah, hell yeah." And then he'd say, "Well, we're trying to cut costs," because like the reality of the show, as it's a fun show, but CBC
it is.
And I told him, joking aside, I told him, Todd, I don't have business to be there. It's just I would rather us put the money into HomebrewCon, where it makes a lot more sense business wise, but it also makes more sense fun wise. HomebrewCon, CBC is a lot of fun. Not taking anything away from it, but when we're showing there, it's much more of a suit tie kind of thing, or
like the brow.
Like the brow.
Yeah.
The meetings seem much more serious to me. And you've been.
It's definitely work. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. HomebrewCon, the only work is serving beer.
Right, and
that's not really work.
And the meetings we have at HomebrewCon are just seem to be more enjoyable.
It's more laid back atmosphere. That's why I've got this. I told you guys I'm not gonna cut this till after HomebrewCon.
I was gonna point that out. Audio listeners are really missing out on handsome James with the beard.
I look like Mel. I'm gonna have that Mel Gibson beard where it's all white with this. Looks like I ate dark soup.
I like that. It does when you say that. I had to. I'm peeping my head around my camera so I can see your face. But, I'm thinking I'm just gonna go completely. I'm gonna shave my head bald, and I have hair up here. People have written in and asked why you always wear a hat, because I don't do my hair. I take showers in the morning, but I don't do my hair. I don't gotta impress you. Who are y'all? But anyway, whoa, man, that was unhealthy. But anyway, I was thinking about shaving again. I haven't gone full shave since the last time we did that whole shtick on the show.
Right.
But HomebrewCon is not the time for me to do a shtick. I need to, and also though the beard is because I'm lazy. If I shave, I'm gonna have to shave while I'm there, or I'm gonna have that itchy beginning part of the beard. Which
I'm right there, man. I am right there.
That's the worst, right? You just push through. Well, I'm glad that we got to do that recap with Todd, and we do have 2 questions on today's show. If you don't mind a little bit more of your time, I'm going to go right into it. Question number 1 comes from our buddy Brandon Hesser. He's the one who came up and did a brew day with us. He used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Brandon wrote, "Hello, Joshua and the rest of you. I have a question regarding the keg life of homebrew. I typically go through 5 gallons in less than 2 months. I've been working in Africa for 7 weeks now, with another 4 weeks before I get home. I've had a blueberry saison on tap since the end of November, and I'm wondering if it will still be good when I get there. Also, I'll be home for 3 weeks and then back to Africa for 9 weeks. Will a stout last in a keg if I brew it while I'm home? Really enjoy the show, and yes, I still listen in the Congo." Brandon,
that's so cool.
Before you get to his question, I'm glad now I have clarification. I looked at the stats, and I didn't go in specifically to see what country in Africa, but we had more than usual downloads out of Africa. And I was like, man, maybe I'm getting popular in like Lagos, Nigeria or something, or Cameroon, or wherever people may brew beer. Or I don't know their laws and countries there. I'm assuming people can brew there. Somalia, I'm always told, is like anarchy. Maybe that's where our downloads came from. But I think that's super cool. Thank you. And when I saw his question, which it came in a few weeks ago, so. He has brewed since, but we can still address it because he literally just got back and literally just brewed. So what are your thoughts on keg shelf life?
Well, I think as long as you follow sanitation procedures, the reason why that's important is, the longer that beer sets, if there is even just the smallest amount of contamination that might be in there and hidden, in other words, you can't taste it because you consume it by the time you don't give it time to populate, like lactobacillus or anything like that. I think that as long as you've got a good sanitation practices and you've kegged that beer and there's no bad bugs in it or anything, keep it cold, keep it under pressure. I've got beer in my fridge from I brewed that red in October, wasn't it?
I think it was October. Do you still have some of that?
I still have red beer, and I had a glass of it the other day, and it tasted good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it does. Yeah. That's the thing too. Like I know, the style is important.
Sure. Like if you had an IPA, the flavors, the hop aromas are real delicate. Those will fade over time. So
exactly. Yeah. Joe and I on an episode where someone asked a question about consuming beers quick, and Joe made a good point to say, like, there are a lot of ales specifically, obviously, that you can turn around and drink, within 2 weeks from your brew day. And he was
Kolsch is a good example. That's
oh yeah. And one of the one, and Joe was saying, because the guy was basically asking, like, or I asked in my sub questions, like, well, what styles would you encourage if clarity wasn't a factor or whatever? And Joe was like, well, IPAs for sure, not because of clarity or anything, but just because of, like you said, the hop aromas.
They fade over time.
Yeah. And so, like, I told my dad that because, we have an IPA. We have still 9 gallons at least of that IPA we brewed, and we're taking it to Easter. And I was just telling him, like, it's still going to taste good, Pop, but it's going to be a different beer, like physically speaking, a different beer than it was the day we kegged it. But because some of those hop notes are going to be faded away. That doesn't mean it's going to be a bad beer.
No, by any means. It could actually end up being a better tasting beer.
I was just saying,
if you're me, you would.
Well, that's what I mean. It's exactly where I told him, say, for my palate too, I'm probably going to enjoy it more because it won't be like, it wasn't a punch you in the face IPA anyway, but it was more than maybe I like. And then over time, though, come Easter, it's gonna be like, all right, I could do this IPA.
It kind of turns into just a pale ale or an amber ale versus an India pale ale,
and then everyone's happy. Life is good.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that it's more when we're talking about those kind of tendencies to fade. I think it's the aromatics that go first before the bitterness. I think the bitterness, once the bitterness is in the boil, it, for the most part, will stay that way. It might tend to mellow out a little bit, but the delicate aromas that you get with whirlpool additions and dry hopping, those definitely go quicker. Yeah.
What would you say is the longest keg of homebrew you've had without noticing? Like, I don't think I've ever asked you if you've ever had to pitch a beer due to age, but what's the longest you've gone and still enjoyed the beer that you brewed?
6 months.
That's a good chunk of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
And that's why it's very, very extremely important that you do proper sanitation, because if you don't, and let's say there is something in there, a lot of times you will never notice it because you're not giving it enough time to populate. So if you do have one at 6 months, it's pretty sour tasting. Chances are that was introduced when you kegged it, and it just took it that long to build up to a point where it affected the taste and the flavor of the beer. So it's very important, especially if you know that you're not going to be drinking that anytime soon. Make sure you clean that keg. In fact, what I usually do is I take it completely apart, sanitize everything, including the O-rings and the tank fittings, because you want to start off fresh with a good clean batch of beer.
You do, definitely. But it is good to know that, like you said, if you cover your bases, life can still be good when you get back from the Congo. And stay safe out there. I don't know what Brandon's doing. When we were small talking in the break room, rather, in the fridge, when we were in the break room small talking with him, I totally forgot to ask him what he did for a living. I just, I think we were small talking about the show, about the styles he likes to brew, his brewing techniques. We had a good time with him. Which is a great reminder that if you're ever in the DFW, the greater DFW area, and you're willing to do that, what is it, 2-hour drive? Two and some change?
2.5 hours.
If you're willing to do that, we're willing to have you. We should get a testimonial from Brandon because I think he enjoyed it. I missed
that. I really hated missing that brew day.
Because in fact, I thought you were there.
No, I was gone. In fact, I didn't even have any of the beer that was brewed. So.
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah.
They didn't even.
Totally serious.
I didn't have any of the beer that was brewed. Oh, wow. That must have went quick. I forgot what we brewed. I know Joe was.
Wasn't it a stout? Didn't y'all do a stout?
Dude, don't catch.
I don't remember.
Don't catch me lying. I don't know what I had for breakfast yesterday, much less what I brewed for.
I really hate I missed that.
I forgot that you weren't there. Yeah, because Brandon usually just talks nice about you. I thought you were there. Everybody always talks nice about you. But anyway, Brandon, thank you so much for submitting your question. Moving on to our second and final question of the show came from Roy, who also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Roy wrote, "Hey Joshua, my local homebrew supply shop is great for the most part, and I definitely want to support them, but more times than not, they have to substitute hops or yeast or sometimes even grain for my recipes, and it can be frustrating because the beer I end up with is not necessarily the beer I had in mind due to the changes. If you aren't able to get the exact ingredients you want when you're planning your brew day, what do you do? Thanks for producing the show. I really enjoyed in the car. Roy, that is a great question because
it is.
it
Gosh, we've been there.
I was going to say, people, some people that I will talk to on social media that message or reply to our stuff or whatever, sometimes it's easy because we're in the industry, specifically on the retail side. It's easy to think, oh, well, coddled you always have the ingredients ready and whatever you want. When the truth is, though, we are under the same restriction as any consumer, whether it be like when Galaxy hops were super hard to get last year, Joe had to change some recipes that he was selling as well as what he wanted to brew. When grains, there's some times where, that Pilsen or that wheat or whatever kind of malt goes, when it's not available from whatever harvesting reasons, weather reasons, whatever, we also, if you can't get it as a consumer, there's a good chance we can't. We don't hoard ingredients as much as I want to. Todd doesn't let us. But I know he's asking you because this doesn't affect me as much as it would like you. Over the course of your 17 plus years of brewing, what have you done when the ingredients you want aren't available?
You just have to compromise. You find the best substitute for what you're trying to brew, but man, it sucks. I've been there. I remember the other day. I'll say that all the time. That could be a year ago, but I had set up to brew a certain batch of beer, and I believe Todd was brewing with me that day. It was one of the few times where he actually had the time to brew with me, and we had everything going. We were doing the mash, and then he said, "I'm going to go get the yeast." And went upstairs and we didn't have none. And it was, I don't know if it was the issue where the manufacturer was it was on back order or what have you, but we had to compromise with the next best thing that we thought we could. And I would suggest, as bad as that can be, take notes because you might create something fairly tasty. And we ended up using a different type of yeast that we'd have never used before. And it turned out to be fairly good tasting beer. So sometimes it can be a bad thing. A lot of times it can be a good thing. It's how you approach it. So just do your research. Try to get as close as you can get to what you're trying to do. And you may have something really, really special.
I'm glad you said that, the taking note part, because that is, we've talked about it on other episodes, and I can't stress enough how important note-taking is on brew days. If you're not just following a recipe, if you're doing your own thing, scratch that and reverse it. It's always good to take notes.
It is, yes. Regardless.
But what I mean specifically, when you are brewing your own stuff or your own recipes you come up with, it's very important because, like you said, it is frustrating when, oh man, I wanted this end result because this yeast was going to do it, but they didn't have that yeast, and they didn't know when it was going to come in. So I have to, instead of waiting, because I want to brew, I'm brewing in 2 weeks. I don't want to wait 4 weeks to brew or whatever. Take the notes because, like you said, accidents sometimes yield wonderful results. With one of the batches of the Weiss beer that you did.
Yeah, that's a good example right there.
You accidentally pitched lager yeast.
Yeah, because I didn't have these. As bad as I hate to admit, I can't see.
He's holding up his glasses. I love it.
And it was White Labs yeast, and we had some wheat beer yeast or Weizen yeast, and then I had a German lager yeast we're going to use to do the beer de garde, and I pitched the wrong one. So I went ahead and just pitched both of them, and we did 3 different batches. We did 3 5-gallon batches with 3 different types of yeast. And that was one everybody liked.
Isn't that so funny? Yeah. And we had talked about like, oh, should we do that as the recommendation? And I think the only reason we didn't is because it would make it considerably more expensive for customers.
It'd be quite a bit more. But I don't know if it was worth the difference in taste for pitching 2 packs of yeast. But it did 2 things. You doubled your numbers. It created a unique flavor, and it got there quicker. So, I can't express more than when you're pitching yeast. Make sure you pitch the right amount because you're going to have a lot better results if you try to if you over pitch. I tend to have better results over pitching than under pitching. So you shorten that lag time, you get a better product. So
absolutely, and it is. My dad and I have not had an accident oops moment yet, but I'm hoping fingers are crossed when we do, because it's not a matter of if, but when.
Right.
I hope that it ends up like that Vice beer where you're like, hey, not the worst result.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the worst thing.
And the whole note taking thing is not just so that you can create a good accident, but also so you can fix a bad accident. So
yeah,
notes are good all around. And I can't tell you how many times I've brewed beer just on the fly, just making it up as I go, and it comes out really good. And then you're like, there's no way in heck I can recreate it because I didn't take notes.
Well, that Monster Ale you did,
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way you can literally recreate it, whether you took notes or not, because I think it was bags of mixed grains. We didn't really know what was in it.
Yeah, mistake grains.
Yeah.
It's kind of like mystery beer. So you take, what I normally do is I take that, and then I take the yeast that's either fixing to go out of date or something nobody uses, and just, but I do take notes on, other than the grain, they write it on the bag, so I can try to keep track. But that first Monster Ale I did, it was like 7%. And I did a Whirlpool hop edition. So it was more along the lines of brewing a New England style IPA. And in fact, I don't even think I did any bittering in the boil. And it come out fairly decent.
It really did. My uncle, my cousin, his son listens to the show, but I don't believe he does. He really enjoyed it, James. It was at I forget if it was a baby shower or I forget, or wedding.
Oh yeah,
it was the wedding shower.
Wedding. Yeah.
His daughter's wedding shower, and his wife drove him home that day.
Of course, yeah. It was high octane beer.
It sneaks up on you too when you're enjoying it. It's like, man, this beer's good. He didn't get quite to that woo level, but
you boys,
yeah. Oh, you boys. That's an inside joke we can never explain. What I do want to come back around to Roy. Well, first off, we, believe it or not, and I say this a bunch, and I don't know if y'all believe me, but you have to. We love you supporting your local homebrew supply shop.
Absolutely.
One of our other Brandons that we love, Brandon Allen, who sends us beer. I think we may have sent him stuff, but he uses his local homebrew supply shop all the time, and I've talked to him. At first he was kind of coy about it. I was like, no, dude, that doesn't hurt our feelings.
No. Support your local homebrew shop.
You need
Absolutely.
to, because like what Todd was talking about too. It is not the easiest time for mom and pop shops, much less ones that are brick and mortar only. It's tough, man. Like, I don't want to throw any companies under the bus, AB InBev, but it's just getting tough. So if you can, please support your local homebrew supply shop. Buy their ingredients, because sometimes if you can't go and get what you need, frequently it's not just because of something out of their control. It's because it's a pain in the ass to order all this grain and then nobody orders it, and then you have to pitch it.
Yeah, it's all logistics. Also, it may not necessarily, I wouldn't beat them up too bad over something they're out of, because I see it all the time. The manufacturer doesn't have it.
Exactly.
And there's nothing that you can do to get it there any quicker. So then you've got to think about that. And then you've got expiration dates for yeast product. And you have to, it's a fine line between having too much and losing money, or having not enough and losing money. It's that fine line. And it's really hard to anticipate a demand of a product over a given time. I'm preaching to the choir, because you did logistics for many, many, many years at a dealership. I can't even imagine the headache that is of like, how many of these little, tiny little screws do we need? And then you end up needing them, and you're like, well, crap, now it's going to take a week for them to get in. And this person wants their car back quicker than that. Much like with homebrewers, like I have a friend who he supports SoCo on South Congress in Austin. Actually, they moved, and I think they're still on Congress. But either way, SoCo, wonderful people. I think we do business with them in some form or fashion. I think they wholesale from us sometimes. But either way, even if they didn't, they're very nice people. Mom and pop shop. They're a younger crowd. I think the owners are 30-somethings. But frequently, they don't have the lager that this guy wants. It's like this kind of obscure lager yeast. Yeast. And it's this obscure lager yeast. And I've told him before, we've been able to source it for him. But I tell him, like,
give them a heads up too. Like plan if you can, and I'm going to do my brew day. Today's April the 12th. I'm going to do my brew day on April the 19th. Call them that week before, and just, because I think it is a good thing. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but if you can support your locals,
absolutely.
That's a good thing, because you're going to miss them when they're gone.
Yeah. And I was going to say, imagine they're not there. And because I can remember a time when I first started homebrewing, I had to drive to Fort Worth. So that was a 2-hour drive. At one time, it was at Dallas. It was actually Irving, which was on the other side of the Metroplex. So they're very helpful. They're very knowledgeable. And if you give them a heads up, like if you plan your brew days down the road, like a month ahead, they'll be more than happy to get what you need. And you're going to know you have it, and it's going to be fresh, and you're going to make them happy too. So
that's the key right there too. It's going to be fresh. And then there'll be no guessing game. You don't have to drive and be disappointed. But joking aside, always go to catconnection.com first. That was the point of it. Sales pitch out of the way. James, that does it for today's show. My friend, I appreciate, even with all the technical difficulties we had, I want to throw Todd under the bus because he's terrible with technology, but I don't think this was his fault this time.
No, it was the cheap internet.
Yeah, because he was in the boonies. Thanks for putting him in if you didn't put him in the boonies, because apparently it was your fault.
I guess so. That's new to me.
That's it. I like the look on your face when you said, y'all put me out here. People who are watching even couldn't see it because I have the little monitor camera here, and you were kind of like,
oh, really?
He said y'all.
I don't remember that day.
But either way, James, I actually am coming up again soon, and we're gonna record some content, to my knowledge, and do some more beer tasting.
And by the way, I've got the box almost finished. In fact, I had one little hiccup yesterday, but for the most part, it's completely wired. Got to get with Clay on the timer, because I don't know how to wire timers. They're very complicated, but everything else is working good. So
I'm looking forward to this trip, man.
If we've got the kettles, then I've got the elements. We've got we've got everything. I think probably a coil, and maybe we could do a video on that, showing the system doing that beer that I talked to Todd about the other day, doing a lemon drop lager. So we thought about maybe doing that on that system. So
that sounds great. And we're also, I've had requests, because people who follow your Instagram have seen the progress of the control panel.
Yep.
And they want us to do an overview of what you did. So
we can walk through it.
So, and that'll be a real quick video, but I think people, there's a lot of do-it-yourselfers that follow us, and you are a godsend to them, to us, really, because I'm not a do-it-yourselfer. I'm a how much does that cost her?
And I am too, and we kind of digressed, but I will say this: what's cool about this system is I went bare bones Amazon. So the PIDs are from China. They're MyPen TA4s. I think they were $20.
Oh wow,
$20. So if we can make that work, now I'm all for the higher end stuff, but if you're going to try something new, we can always swap them out later. But we also did something different that I don't know if I told you this, but I went ahead and ordered a boil controller in place of the third one, and it's just got a knob. So it's going to be really easy to control the boil versus controlling output on the PID. So
you're spoiling Todd, man. You're spoiling him.
I think I'm excited to see how it turns out. So.
I am too, and I'm looking forward to it. We'll post that content soon, showing visually what we did and what we're doing. And then as soon as we can get a brew day in, we'll do that too. Maybe, it's Learn to Brew Day, National Homebrew Day is coming up May 7th, I think. So we'll do some.
That'd be perfect.
There we go. The stars are aligning. James, my friend, thank you so much for your time, and I'll talk to you soon, man.
See ya.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, visit homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the Submit a Question link at the top of the page. Now you can call or text your questions in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsor, catconnection.com, for supporting our podcast and the homebrewing community. Go to catconnection.com, use the promo code HHH, and you'll get 5% off your order. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.